Greetings. This is Jim Jowsey, and you're listening to Trout Pod, 2.0, I guess, the official podcast of the Western New York chapter of Trout Unlimited. It's been quite a while since we've released a new episode, and while life may find a way, sometimes it also gets in the way, and for that I apologize. In the coming months, we'll be doubling down our efforts to get some fresh content out to you once a month, topics of local interest, sometimes national, but always with a focus on our home waters. Last year, we had a local scare with the fish kill episode on Ishua Creek, which really put a focus on what can happen when we as anglers are not as focused on protecting our local resources as we could be. Yes, we were not the bad actors, but I think all of us can do a better job at keeping our eyes open. Focusing in on this also made us aware of things that are going on nationally. If you receive our emails, you may have noticed that in the last month or two, we've been sending out a lot of action emails asking for you to make your voice heard to our local representatives. Well, it is legislation season, and it's also an election year, so the bills and change proposals are coming at a furious pace, as are the public comment periods. I sat down with board member and new Advocacy chair, Bill Jedlicka, to discuss this new position, what this new position does, and how we can all do a little bit more to make sure our home waters and beyond are protected. And this is the important part, do it in less than 2 minutes. Well, I am on with Board of Director Bill Jedlicka from our Western New York Trout Unlimited chapter. And Bill is also kind of taken the helm on our, political advocacy and, political activism, as it were. He is our advocacy chair, and he's kind of taken it, upon himself to keep himself abreast of everything that's been going on, politically, as far as bills coming up, things that need our attention. So it's, how you doing, Bill?
I guess my head is spinning, I guess. Yeah, but other than that, pretty well. Thanks. How are you doing?
Good. So there's a lot that's been going on. If you're one of the people that gets our emailings, you'll have noticed that there's been quite a few emails that we've sent out in the past couple months, and they seem kind of the same, but they're really not. So I guess the first question to ask, would be, what gave you the inspiration to want to be the person that keeps track of all this stuff?
And that's a great question. And I'll probably have a little bit of a lengthy answer. So cut me off if you need to. But I think that, the time spent, with TU and even just being someone who loves the outdoors, some recent trips that we've done to some just beautiful and sensitive areas, it started to inspire in me something where, okay, I'm out there enjoying these things, whether it's fishing or wildlife photography or hiking, and you love it, but then you're going, you know what, given all that we're hearing, I feel like I need to do more than just enjoy it, because then I feel like I'm just taking and not giving back. So I said, I really want to do my part, at least, however small that is, try to do what I can to protect these places. And then that's what helped me, maybe take that first step in that direction of advocacy.
Okay, it's definitely needed. I mean, between the boots on the ground conservation work that we do and the education work, and everything else that we do, we never really had, or at least not as long as I've been involved, we've never really had somebody whose focus was that, that political advocacy. We've always kind of just relied on TU National.
Yep. And it's interesting that you're saying that, because that also helped push me, because as I started to get a little bit interested in this, I kept kind of tapping some of the people that I had interacted with at TU. And that's when they were saying that, listen, we want to start to introduce advocacy chairs. We want to have those positions created. I think that might have been why, our president, Joe, had reached out, because I think they're trying to formally get those things going, because you're absolutely right. We do rely on them a lot. And And I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing without their guidance, and also the templates and things that they assemble. I'm sure we'll touch on those later, but to have them in some communication saying like, yeah, let's this is an area of growth opportunity for us. Like, how can we build this part of TU out where it's not just that, hey, send people to the take action page, but maybe have, as you put it, more boots on the ground. So we're amplifying the messages that they're putting out, and then we're thereby directing people towards the TU site so they can see those action items as well. So I think part of this was a little bit of their brainchild, this position anyway.
Okay. Excellent. I've noticed in the past, I mean, me being the person that sends out the emails and, and does the website, I've noticed a lot of communication with you in the past few months. There's been a lot going on, more than before, more than I ever remember, all coming out at the same time. Is there a particular reason for this? Are we just, is it an assault, or is it just that time of year?
And that is also a great question. And it's funny because I had a conversation about this very topic with someone else who's really kind of involved in this kind of thing too. And I said, is it just that I'm stepping deeper into it and feeling like, wow, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this? Is it just me for being new and a rookie, or is this like we're really getting hammered? And they said, no, this is atypical. I mean, there's always things, obviously that's why you have clean water legislation and all those things that have such a history of decades, if not longer. But the rapidity with which that we're getting hit with things that we need to speak up or take action on or have public comments does seem to be much more regular, I guess, obviously with the current administration. So I think there's a lot coming at us. So even it's not just me being new to it. This is a little bit atypical when you compare it to prior years.
Okay. Because I know, I'm not going to make this political, but the first, the first term, granted it was a term and then not a term, then a term. They were pretty monumental with the whole Bristol Bay thing, getting quashed at least. So I don't know. I don't understand the turnaround.
Go ahead, please. I'm interrupting you.
No. I don't understand the turnaround from, let's call it 8 years ago.
Yeah. I wish I did too. I don't know. I don't know, because I wasn't as involved. It wasn't, that deep into it as I am now, but I am getting the sense that there's more happening now. And I'd have to think through or maybe ask people and know of like, well, what is different? So I honestly don't know that answer. And you're right. You don't like to get political, but obviously there's no escaping that aspect of this. When these things come out, like we're taking kind of political action, or we're speaking up in that political process, which is really the beauty of it. We still have our voices, we still have our votes, and I think that that's what's important. But it is different, and I'd have to really study as to why it's so different from 8 years ago. But it's definitely more rapid fire now.
Yeah, the one cool thing about many cool things about Trout Unlimited, national, but the one cool thing that I appreciate is they're critical no matter who's in office. We can definitely always count on national to kind of steer us in the right direction as far as, okay, this is a bad thing no matter who's in office. So, I think we do have that trust.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. I think it is, while we're citing some things with the current administration, because those are the things that are coming out right now. You're right. This is something that is not necessarily specific from one political party, to the other. These are things that historically, they're always going to be things that require champions or voices acting on behalf of the environment, whether that's clean air, clean water, et cetera. I can remember when acid rain was a huge issue growing up, and all the things that went into that, but not knowing anything about what that was, as a kid, you're still going to require some kind of action. And sometimes it isn't even necessarily It could just be something, this is what we're doing now. This is the direction we're taking. And sometimes the damage it can do isn't necessarily realized right away, as opposed to sometimes you're seeing things now and you're like, okay, well, you're undoing some things with regards to the Clean Water Act. That's pretty clear. Like, okay, why do we really want to do that? We know what the Clean Water Act stands for. But there probably are things historically that have gone on that the damage wasn't realized right out of the gate. So again, that's irrespective of political party or political environment. It's saying, okay, we need to take some action on this. Let's speak up because something needs to be corrected. It can't keep it going in this direction. I guess a great example would be growing up, how bald eagles were endangered and the toxicity that contributed to that. Here they are now where, I mean, they're I want to say they're commonplace, but they are commonplace. I mean, that's a success story. And that's something that, probably had a lot to do with, understanding science and advocacy that helped turn that around and find some other solutions, so those kind of, chemicals or that kind of damage wasn't happening. But you're right, it is irrespective of political party.
So a lot of what's been going on the past few months has a lot to do with the weakening of the Clean Water Act, or maybe transferring some of those decisions and that responsibilities to the states, as opposed to, what do we understand as far as, is there a game plan with these? Are they, what are they trying to do?
Yeah. And that is also a really good question, and one that going back to what we were saying earlier, it's incredibly hard to almost separate these things, whether it's the Permit Act or the WOTUS rule change or the most recent one, which was the 401 Section 401 certification process. When you try to read up on these things, and again, I have to say, I am absolutely not an expert on this at all. But as you dig into it, you're like, am I reading the same thing? There is overlap. There's intertwining in this. And it's when you say, like, what is the end game? To me, if you combine those things alone, the Permit Act, the WOTUS rule change, and the 401 certification process, with things like the selling off of public lands, where, for resource exploration, there seems to be, it's very easy to kind of connect the dots and say a lot of this will have to do with, energy exploration. And again, I want to say this too. I don't think anybody's saying that industry is bad. What it is you're trying to find that balance. You want to seek that balance. And that's where, if you were to combine selling off of public lands and all these other things that we just mentioned, if all those went into place, it's going to be harder to keep those safeguards in place. I'll use the example we've all been talking about. Our most recent presentation was on the Issaquah Creek situation. That's something that happened in the context of safeguards. So things can happen. So if you're lessening those safeguards, you could probably expect those kind of things to happen more and more often. So I it's hard to speculate what the end game is, but I would say that it's meant to ease the ability to have resource exploration. And I think the position of TU would be, let's watch how far we go with that. You know what I mean? Let's not damage too much. Let's not get rid of all our public lands. I mean, most of us fish on public lands and public rights to get to the waterway. So if those things were gone, it would be difficult for that. So again, I know that's a little long-winded, so please tell me if I've kind of hit the point on that, or if you want me to kind of hone that down a little more.
No, I think that pretty much states it pretty well.
Yeah.
So what have we been doing? I mean, where have we been getting our information as far as, chapter wise? Excuse me. Yeah, we'll edit that out. So
I'll take a sip here, then, right there.
Yeah, there you go. So where are we getting our information that we're, disseminating to our membership?
Yeah, that's where I was saying how I rely very heavily on TU. I mean, I'm still playing catch up, so I try to absorb as much information I can. So I try to get that from a lot of different places. But when I'm quote unquote going to press and maybe asking you to maybe put something out, or if I'm posting something on our page, it's usually something that I'm pulling from the TU site, or what I've gotten in a communication from TU National. What's the hot topic right now? What's the thing that they need us to take action on? And I can't say this with enough praise that what they do and how quickly they're having to put things together is very admirable. And I definitely rely heavily on their expertise. I would almost like to ask, like, I'm envisioning teams of people that are just pulling apart these proposals and these bills that are being proposed, and fully understanding it. Because if you've ever tried to read through some of those things, it is very legalese, and it can be pages and pages long. Just that section 401 item, when I was trying to read that on the public comment site, because you can open up a page that will show you the document. I mean, it's just tens and tens of pages long, and it's very hard to dedicate the time to do that. So I'm trying to pull from that what I can, but really I'm relying on the minds at TU that are really digging further into this. So yeah, that's what they're doing.
Well, I definitely think that a lot of those folks, I mean, aren't they? Their headquarters is in Virginia, so
yeah.
They're living in it. If for lack of a better term, they're kind of policy wonks on our side. So the stuff comes out, and they live with it every day. So I'm sure they can understand it a lot easier than we can.
And I'd like to add this too, if I could, on that topic, is. And I said earlier how I'm not an expert on this. And I think it's important for people to hear this, because it is very easy to look at this stuff and go, oh my gosh, you have to be a PhD to understand this. You have to be an environmental lawyer to understand this. And you know what? You don't. It doesn't mean that, you go off with any little thing that comes up. But if you're relying on reliable sources of information, like the teams of people at Child Unlimited, or whatever other sources that you follow environmentally, you don't have to be that expert in order to speak up. And that's what I think is very important, because I think if people feel restricted or inhibited, going like, well, I'm not that level of expertise, I should just be quiet. No, don't do that. Educate yourself a little bit. It's easy to do that when you have resources like TU and other types of organizations like that. So I really encourage people to feel empowered by their passion. That passion will guide their learning, but you certainly don't have to be an expert before you speak out on a topic, especially with how quickly things are coming out. And when there's deadlines on public comments, it's like, go with what you know and do that. But I that's one thing that I caught myself in the beginning going, I don't think I'm qualified to be able to speak up on this. And you go, know what? You do. If you go out there and you enjoy the outdoors and you love that and you don't want to see that disappear, that's more than enough qualification right there.
And they definitely make it easy for you to have your opinion heard.
Mm-hmm. They absolutely do. And a word on that too, and I always include this when we do these posts, and this is what I think they do such a great job at, and even an interesting new twist with how they're doing it. So yes, what TU does is they'll prepare that message. So let's say we have a call to action, and we'll say, okay, here's the link to that part of the TU action page. And they've prepared the message, and the mechanism they use is something where all you have to do is put in your address and the information that's required, and it finds your elected officials for you. Now, they're not the only kind of mechanism that does this. I mean, there's ways to find your elected officials, and it's probably using that same kind of engine kind of a thing. But the long and the short of it is, a person who wants to speak up, who may not necessarily know exactly who their elected officials are, don't have to do that homework. You just plug in that stuff, and it's going to go right to those people that you want to send it to. So that, I think, is really great. So there's the template message, there's the way for it to go exactly where you need it to go. But the other thing that I think is brilliant that they just did, and I don't know how widely known this is, because I want to say it's a relatively new change, is I believe the administration now counts exact duplicate messages as one message.
That's what you were saying at the last meeting.
Yes. And even though TU, when you go to that action page, it'll kind of gently suggest, hey, put in a little bit of your own comments. Now that's even more vital. Even if it just changes it a little bit, you're still not having to do the bulk of it. They've done the bulk of it for you, and it's still easy to, it's still going to get sent off to your elected officials. But by tweaking it just a little bit, it can separate that message, because that's a little bit of a new development that would kind of make it a little tougher, especially when people like signing petitions and you have now hundreds of names attached to one statement. You want it to be like, no, really, maybe 100 statements would be good, and just a little bit of a tweak would do that.
Right. Well, I mean, even something as simple as, this is where I'm from, and these are the waters that I particularly have an interest in, and vote no or vote yes, as the case may be.
Yep. And I think and that's all it takes. Just enough, a couple of lines to make it different and make it stand out. Another thing too is sometimes phone calls are better. Now that's not something you would see from the TU Action website. And some people might not feel comfortable about doing that. But honestly, I've done it a couple of times myself, where I've just picked up the phone, and that was new to me. Again, getting back to that point about you don't have to be an expert. I'm like, I'm going to jump in. Let me try this. And they have to take that information, and it's the same kind of thing, but sometimes there's a little more immediacy to it, and it's certainly unique. It's not a template thing. So people should feel comfortable doing that if they do that. I'll say this. I mean, obviously, if anyone is going to do that, and I always do this in any of my communications that are outside of the TU templates, is always be respectful. Regardless of your political persuasion or how passionate you are about a topic. I just find that to be respectful, I think invites engagement as opposed to, this kind of thing. So I think, there are a number of ways to get that message out there. But back to the earlier point is TU does make it easy for people to do that.
And as far as our membership is concerned, we'll always provide them with those links. And I mean, they can go digging on the tu.org website, and it's not difficult, but we even try to make it even a little bit easier on that front as well.
Yeah, I know that they did just change the website. I think I might have brought it up at the meeting. I can't remember if I said this, that it used to be front and center, take action right on their face page. And I reached out to one of the people there, and I said, do you think you could bring that back? Because now it's 3 or 4 links to get into it. But if we're sending out a communication, whether it's an email or on the website or on social media, we can put the direct link to the page. It's just that casual visitor that might go to tu.org and have to jump through a couple of things. But fortunately, their site is so engaging that eventually you're going to get to that point too. And it's not just one link on there. You'd probably stumble upon that link to the action page in multiple different rooms of their web page. So, it would be hard to work your way through that website or visit that website and not very quickly come to that action area.
Awesome. So, speaking locally, so we've got our national issues that we're getting information from and we're disseminating. Do we have any communications, any ins with our local representatives as far as local issues? Are we developing that? Or
that's also a really good question. As of right now, no. I want to say that I kind of broached this subject just glancing last year, chatting with Joe, and I want to say it was as a result of an email that I got from tu.org where they wanted, well, not from one of the representatives from National, that were looking to possibly engage or even look for our recommendation on how to engage. So I do want to pursue that. So the short answer is nothing right now at the moment, but it is an area that I think we may want to explore. I don't know what form that takes. Is it inviting an elected official to a meeting, or actually, I think one of the recommended things was to invite an elected official to maybe some of our projects, rather than have them just come into a room for a discussion and say, hey, listen, we're going to do a stream habitat restoration or bank stabilization or tree planting. Come see what we do, or one of our other outings. And I think that would be a great idea. So we'll see. Maybe with this season, maybe you kind of put that thing back in my head, and it might be a neat idea to do.
We'll bring an extra pair of waders for you. What's your size?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I'll tie the flies for you. Come on.
Tie the flies for you. Come on down. Come out to the fair and cool. So what do you see in the future? I mean, your role is brand new. I mean, like it's since the first of the year. I mean, maybe a little bit before that, when we broke for Christmas, but what are you seeing as far as as far as the evolution of your role, the advocacy chair?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do find that I want to continue to become more educated on this. I believe there's probably going to be, if not already scheduled, although I can't find a date on it, is I think TU is going to want to have almost like either workshops. You know how we have the different kinds of things. I forget what's the one that's going on in Central New York at some point soon, and sometimes some of our board people and ones from other chapters go to these.
Yeah, the regional rendezvous.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if they start to have something like this specifically around the topics of advocacy, because I do think that they're trying to build that force within the chapters. So I am going to kind of go by their direction or suggestions, but I would also like to seek out, hey, are there things, because there's only so much I think I can do myself, trying to learn at a reasonable pace. I think I'd rather say, hey, what are you guys doing? What is this chapter doing?
Yep.
What are some, so maybe collaborative, and also maybe collaborative between not just TU chapters, but like-minded organizations. We've had people present at our chapter meetings that, aren't, like a club like ours, but that doesn't mean we don't kind of share those same kind of interests in the outdoors and the environment. So I think it would be very into the.
Yep. Yeah, backcountry hunters and anglers, water keepers. Yep. There's a lot of people, and I'm sure it's everywhere, but there's a lot of people in this area doing a lot of good work, and everybody kind of fills their own niche, but we're all doing the same work. So
yes,
definitely.
So I'd like to see it expand a little more, or get to see other people that would be potentially my kind of role in other organizations or other chapters, and learn from them. I think I think we would grow, the efforts would grow exponentially with that. So that might be something to try to look at in the coming months.
Well, I know for other groups like youth education group and other state council and other things like that, where they can't get together face to face, they definitely do a lot of Zoom work groups.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be great to see, some kind of an advocacy work group that meets once a month or once a quarter or whatever, to do exactly what you're saying. So.
Yeah, I agree. I know that I've fired off a bunch of emails sometimes to people, and I know it's got to be tough. While email is certainly easier than maybe picking up the phone at times, I still can't imagine just how overwhelmed people at TU are that are in this area of TU. How they're getting inundated. So I could see the rationale for some kind of concentrated, this is an event that we're working on right now, whether it be a Zoom or whether it be a workshop on site or whatever, but something where you're not just shooting off emails. You're like, okay, let's get some people in a room and let's throw some ideas around or different suggestions. So I could definitely see something like that happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the very near future.
Cool. Well, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you directly, is there an advocacy at WNYTroutunlimited.org? If there's not, I can make you one real quick. But
that may be a good idea, because I think that would be a good idea to have a dedicated email for something. Is that what you were talking about? Like have some kind of way of I think that would probably be a good idea, because it would, as I'm sure you have seen, you just get bombarded with emails in your regular email boxes. And then, of course, with work kind of stuff too, it would be good to be able to know, okay, I don't have to scroll through 100 things. This came in on this topic. So I think we're probably getting to that point where it would make sense to have something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, until that happens, I will tell people to email outreach at WNYTroutunlimited.org. If there's anything, advocacy related, or, you want any information or any communication as far as that goes, until we get Bill's own advocacy email address. So, You just send it to outreach and we'll make sure that you get it.
Yeah. I wanted to mention one other thing, although please let me know if you had something else you wanted to go to. I didn't want to kind of commandeer the conversation, but
commandeer away.
Think of something. Okay. I know we were talking about some specific things about, the Clean Water Act and the ones that were just probably rapid succession, those ones we talked about earlier. But without looking at it in front of me, and I can pull it up, but what I think people would be surprised to know if they do get directed to the TU action page, how many topics that they are involved in. Now, granted, if you went there right now, I know that at least one, like you can click on one that said this petition is ended, or because, like for instance, the Permit Act. Well, that one's already kind of been dealt with. That's not on there anymore, but you might hit something where they haven't taken it down yet, but it's telling you this one has been addressed. Keep paying attention, and there are other ones that are going to be coming through. But they are on a number of different topics, whether it's clean water, public lands, the roadless rule. I think the roadless rule is the one that just kind of expired recently. Bristol Bay, you mentioned that earlier. You probably remember that presentation. I think it was during COVID when we had someone from TU National and they did this. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, you could see, it was a success. We've taken care of it. It's good. Now there are efforts again. Yeah, it's not over yet. We're they're pulling you back in. So that's another one that's there. So they're in so many things. And what I also think is great about that website, which kind of speaks to my mentioning before how, you don't have to be an expert. Not only could you just go there and see the petition, and you could just go right to the petition. They do such a great job of describing the issue, what's going on. There's a few pages on each specific topic. So I really like the work that they do. So if you did want to research something a little more before you just signed on to do it and send it out to your elected official, you can read up on that. And it's, again, I can't say enough about how well they do that.
I think they definitely understand, as we all need to understand, that you have to be vigilant, because these things that we think that we've won, or these ideas that we think that we've successfully killed, it's wait a few years, and somebody else is going to come around when everybody thinks that we've forgotten about it and try to push it through again. So if it sucks to have to put it this way, but it's a constant battle to not have things be destroyed.
Yeah. It is. You've got to be, as you said, constantly vigilant about this and never let the guard down. And that also reminded me again, how I said earlier, how this isn't necessarily always an anti-industry, it's not that kind of a thing. It's about that balance. And I want to say one of those items in there, at least one of those on the TU site, describes it that way. So, and I think that garners credibility there. It's not just this blanket no to everything thing. It's more of, we hear you, but hey, let's not forget about this. This is how we got here in the first place. This is why things are maybe better, or you remember when things weren't so good. That's why that happened. Let's make sure we keep that all in mind before we just charge forward doing things that could really do irreparable harm or set the tone or the precedent where it would be so much harder to undo things, both, legislatively, but more importantly, environmentally. I mean, there are some things you can correct, and thankfully, it looks like Ishiway Creek will recover. But I mean, there are some things that could be so incredibly wide, large scale that now you're talking, almost irreparable harm. So those are the kind of things that it's good that we've got the resources to be able to speak up on these things.
Right. Well, if you love it, you definitely have to be willing to fight for it. So
yeah.
So is there anything that we haven't talked about that, that you feel that we should be?
I don't know. I don't know if I wrote anything down. I think we touched on everything. I mean, I think it was just definitely kind of highlighting the website. I know a lot of what I was saying was very rambly, and I know sometimes I can see it in my head, but maybe it doesn't come across that way. I don't know what it was like hearing that. Do you think we covered things well enough? without being overwhelming, or do you think there might be areas that we can revisit? Because I'm happy to chat a little more.
Well, we can definitely revisit stuff at a later time. I mean, I would definitely like to have you back on again, to discuss, specific topics, that type of thing. If something comes up that's, I mean, it's all important, but specifically earth shattering, we can definitely have more conversations. But my goal was to get it out there. I mean, this is something that's brand new for us. Apparently, this is something that's brand new for a lot of chapters, anybody who has brought on an advocacy chair at this point. So, why, as members that receive emails from us and see our social media posts and, I mean, this is all new. So, hey, what are they doing? Well, this is what we're doing. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess I can't think of anything because we touched on the website. It was more making sure that they were aware of that resource. And then, as I had said earlier, just that part about don't feel like you've got to be an expert to speak up. If I would felt like that, I would still be quiet because I'm not, and believe me, behind the scenes, I'm kind of like, what I have to refresh my memory. Which one of these things is which? But again, most of us are, working day jobs, or we're doing something else. This isn't our line of work or line of study. So it stands to reason that we're not going to be that proficient at it, but that doesn't matter. If we love where we are and we love our environment and things that we do, then you're right. You can't walk away from that responsibility to do what you can to be a good steward. I mean, that's stewardship is really, I think, what it's all about. So, yeah.
Thanks for listening. Like they say, if you see something, say something. Go to the Western New York Trout Unlimited website. Over on the left sidebar is a link to a list of numbers that you can call when you do see something to help get the ball rolling and help us avoid another issue at Creek. We'll see you next month. I'm Jim Jowsey, and this is Trout Pod 2.0, the official podcast of Western New York Trout Unlimited. Peace. See you next month.